way better at this than men. And I learned that. I mean, I'm not kidding around here. The average adult woman has like 200 friends that she knows by name, and the average adult man has like 2, and they're usually friends from high school. This is a true story. And so one of the very first things that my mom and dad taught me when I wanted to do Isagenix, they said, you need to work with women, and you need to respect the fact that women are better at this than you are. And, and I really pride myself on being very, I love to work with the women. The women, you know how they say like a man could sell ice to an Eskimo, a man could sell, fire to Satan himself. And they say things like that. But women always operate from the heart. Women, they have to believe in it. They have to have passion for it 1,000,000% in order for them to promote something or to endorse something or share it with their friends. I don't know if you know this, but 70% of network marketing is women. 70% of network marketing is women. And in Isagenix, 80% of Isagenix is women. And the reason, again, is because when you're dealing in weight loss, when you're dealing in health, it's a very, it's a vanity-based thing. It is also a very emotional thing. And not a lot of men like to talk about their health and their weight. Women are all about that, and they love to share things that work. So it's no wonder women built the network marketing industry. Women built Isagenix, and really women will continue to do so. And the men that get involved in Isagenix, they better be willing to work with women and recognize and appreciate the fact that women are far better at sharing products and services than men are. I wanted to start by sharing my story. I grew up a little different than I think most people did. I think most people grow up and they see their mom and dad have a job. My dad was the number one salesman in the nation. He was probably about 30 years old. He was the number one salesman in the nation for a little company called Sears Roebuck. You guys have heard of it? So he has all these plaques. He has all these plaques, and he has all these awards, and he won all these trips. And he went, my dad has all this stuff. Well, in 1973, my dad was there at his job at Sears, and he went on a coffee break. And on his coffee break there was a guy there that had been there for, something like 30 years, same job. And my dad said to this guy, he said, hey, Marv, I think his name was Marv because he always tells the story. He says, hey, Marv, how you doing? Marv goes, good. He goes, Marv, you ever worried about your job security here? And Marv goes, oh, no, Tony, no way. I've been here for 30-something years. He says, they could never let go of me. I've got seniority. I've got a lot of experience. I've got 30 years experience. My dad sat there and he thought about it. He says, Marv, I don't know if that's true. He says, because I really don't believe you have 30 years experience. I think you have 1 year of experience repeated 30 times over and over and over. Because he says, Marv, all we do here is the same crap every single day. We do the same thing every day. I show up, I sell some stuff, I go on my coffee break, I go on my lunch break, I sell some more stuff. They tell me when I can go home. I go home, I read the newspaper, I eat dinner, I watch a little TV, I go to bed, I wake up the next day, I do the same thing over again. He says, I'm going crazy here. I feel like I'm in shackles. I feel like I'm in prison. My dad, even though he was the number one guy making a ton of money at a very young age, he was miserable. He did not want to accept the status quo. He saw something bigger and greater for himself at that time. Well, all I knew, I was born in 1980. The year that I was born, my mom and dad went through a bankruptcy. They were in the construction industry, and they lost everything. They had all these properties and buildings, and the construction crash of 1980, it was a great big giant recession, and they lost everything. In fact, our church was having to pay our electricity bill and our water bill. and our food. They were having to buy us food. So, here comes Sean, and what did I bring with me? Massive storm. So it's really, really sad. But, my parents, it's interesting. Growing up, my dad never had a job. They were always doing all kinds of things to try to generate income for our families, and they struggled and they suffered. Those of you that come from small business families, those of you that people that are small business owners, that when you own your own business, it owns you. No matter what it is, your own business owns you. And if you have an employee, you're a babysitter. And if you have more than one employee, then you run an adult daycare. And it is a lot of work and a lot of stress. And it's a roller coaster. There is none of this. There is none of this. It's just constantly we were doing really well, and then we were flat broke. And it was feast or famine all the time. And I remember my dad growing up, he would say, turn off the lights. Turn off the lights. And he would literally be so worried about money that he would be screaming at us to turn off the lights when we leave a room, because he could see the electricity bill growing in his mind. He was thinking the electricity. I remember heating our house with wood logs, and the whole house stunk. All of our clothing stunk like a fire. But we were trying to save money because we didn't have money to pay the gas bill. And so I once counted, and my parents, growing up throughout my life, I counted 31, and this is in a span of about 20 years. I counted, I also counted what came before me, so excuse me, but in their adult lives, 31 different types of businesses, 31 different types of companies. There was restaurants, there was carpet companies, there was the, managing apartments. I mean, you name it, they did it. And they never got ahead. In fact, as I said, I was raised a little differently, but and I'll get back to that in a minute. I went on a mission. I went on a Christian mission for 2 years. And a lot of people do that in my church. So I went to Virginia for 2 years. When I came back, my parents were flat broke again. And they were so broke that when we would go out to a restaurant, like at lunch, my dad wouldn't eat. And we'd be like, Dad, don't you want to eat something? And he'd be like, no, I'm fine. We'd be like, Dad, you got to eat. And he's like, no. He's like, you don't understand. I'm living on borrowed money. And I must have heard that 1,000 times. I'm living on borrowed money. It's not my money. It's not my money. I'm living on borrowed money. And he was so stressed. And he got into this really cancerous, just this very scarcity, place of scarcity. And so I come home and I'm like sad. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I thought I would come home, everything would be great. Our business, when I left 2 years prior, our business was doing really well. My parents were pulling about $10,000 a month from the business. When I came back, it was tanking. And they had taken on about $650,000 worth of debt. And we didn't know what we were going to do. And so I come back, and right then, I come back in January. And that April, Isagenix comes into my parents' lives. And they didn't see it for what it was. They didn't know what it was. But my mom went on the product, and as many of you can attest, you've been on the product. And the product is magic. The product literally brings life. It brings you to life. It's like waking from the dead. And my mom, she got her health back. She was able to reclaim her health. And she lost 14 pounds and 16 inches in that initial 11 days. Then my sister went on it. Her health came back. She was able to lose 17 pounds and 22 inches very quickly. My sister-in-law, 22 pounds, 22 inches. It's all just coming off. And they're feeling good. And they have all this vibrant energy and euphoria. Well, this is what got their interest. It wasn't the money, you guys. It wasn't the opportunity to generate income. It was the results. And then the neighbors wanted Isagenix. And then the people at the gym that we knew for 20 years, they wanted Isagenix. The people from our church all wanted Isagenix. And it started to spread organically. and just naturally like that. And next thing you know, the referrals just kept coming in. In Isagenix, we often say that there's 3 R's when it comes to this opportunity. There's 3 R's. Results equal referrals. And those referrals can and probably will generate you residual income. My parents went on to generate $1 million in their first 11 months of Isagenix. $1 million net take-home pay in their very first year. They totally paid off all their debts from their other business. And my dad snapped out of that cancerous state, and he started to act more abundantly and excited. He was like a new man. He was just so passionate. And they built a business of over 100,000 customers that very first year. It was unbelievable. Now, here's me. I was the guy that I skipped as much high school as I could, and but still graduated, right? So like my senior year, I mean, I missed a lot of school. I hate to admit it, Pete, but I stole from the physical therapist's place. I stole a pad of those notes, and I forged notes all through high school. I would forge notes and hand them in and get my absences excused. That's how I was able to graduate high school. I don't even think my parents know that to this day. But I still got good grades. I got good grades. I did study. I mean, I just didn't like to be there a lot. Well, when I got out of high school, it was like, okay, what do? You get a job. I went and I got a job. I only lasted 1 day. It was at a grocery store. All my friends were working at this grocery store. I went and I worked there 1 day, and I was like, oh man, this is not for me. I can't do this. Because they were paying me like minimum wage, and it wasn't that hard. Like, I was like, anybody could do this. Like, they don't need me to do this because anybody can do this. Hire robots or something, right? So then I go on that mission. I come back from the mission, and I don't know what I'm going to do for a living. But I started a business, and that business, after about 2 years, that business was doing about $60,000 a year. And I was like so proud of myself. Here I was 22 years old. I was making $60,000 a year. I thought I was the coolest thing there ever was. And then this is what happened. A guy by the name of Jimmy Smith, he came to my parents' office, and I had an office there as well. And Jimmy Smith, he saw what I was doing for a living, and he goes, what are you doing for a living? And I told him, and I showed him, and he goes, you've got to be a flippin' idiot. And I'm like, whoa, dude. He's like 70 years old, and he's got this, kind of like this back Eastern accent. And he's like, you got to be a freaking idiot. And I was like, okay, why is that? He says to me, your parents slaved away for 30 years in self-employment, and you witnessed it. And they found something that works. Not only does it work, it literally liberated them. Within a matter of just a few years, they were completely financially free. Within a couple years, they found the goose that lays the golden eggs. They cracked the code to the combination. And what are you doing? You're doing something else? You're doing something different? He goes, you've just got to be a freaking idiot. And he goes, if I was you, I would be on the phone 16-hour days, whatever it takes, talking to as many people as I could about Isagenix, because he says, I'm going to tell you something. I didn't find this industry till I was in my 60s. He was a butcher. Jimmy was a butcher for 40 years at a grocery store. 40 years. And the most he ever earned as a butcher was $40,000 in a single year. And Jimmy, the only reason he stopped being a butcher was because he hurt his back, and they said, you got to find a new line of work because you can't be a butcher anymore. You can't lift these hunks of meat. Well, Jimmy, he really got to me. I hated what I was doing. I hated all the inventory and the fulfillment and the accounting. I hated the taxes. Dealing with all that tax accounting, it's such a headache. All of that, everything associated with traditional business is a headache. Legal crap, leases on buildings, insurances, it's all a headache. It's all awful. Well, I am so grateful, eternal. Every time I see Jimmy Smith, I go up and I give him a hug. Because if it wasn't for Jimmy Smith, I would not have gotten involved and taken this business seriously. When I was 23 years old, I got involved in this business, Isogenics. I was able to generate six-figure income that very first year that I got involved, that I got involved and took it serious. I was able to generate six-figure income in Isogenics. And it was the coolest thing. I mean, it was so unbelievable. In fact, I've got this because they're giving this award. It's called the Start 1000. And they're giving this award to the first 1,000 people in Isogenics between the ages of 18 to 35 who generate six figures a year in their businesses in Isogenics. Now, I am so grateful and so humbled to have been the very first one of these. I was the very first one of these. And I just can't even believe it. I can't even imagine it. I kept on doing what I was doing, which is exactly what Rachel is doing. I was just sharing my belief and sharing the products and sharing the passion and the mission and the vision and the enthusiasm. And by the age of 27, I hit $1 million income. And my income has only gone up and up and up ever since. In fact, between my mom and my dad and my wife, Crystal, and myself, we've now earned over $27 million with Isogenics. One of those things we have to do, Rachel, is we always have to say results may vary. I can't guarantee that all of you would have that kind of success or even six-figure success. It's all a matter of what you bring to the table. It's all a matter of your skills, who you know, how much time you devote to it, how much energy you devote to it, how many customers you bring to the table. It varies. But here's the cool thing about this business model. When I got back from that mission, my brother, he enrolled me in school, in college. And you know I hated school. And he enrolled me in college and he says, Sean, you're going to school. When I got home, the very first thing I did, my brother's there. He's got a big stack of books for me. He goes, you're going to school. He knew I wouldn't go if he hadn't enrolled me. So he goes and he pays the tuition. He pays the tuition. And he gets me all my books. He even gets me my schedule. He says, you're going, I think it started on Monday. He says, all you got to do is take these books and show up. I did everything for you. And I go, oh, thanks, Aunt. My brother's 6 years older than me. And I go to school, and the first class was a communications class. And it wasn't, it wasn't very good. The second class was supposed to be like English, and I hated English. I mean, I just hated English in high school. And so, and I guess you have to take English and mathematics and all this stuff for generals, right? So I go from the communications class and I walk across the street to this other building, and I walk into this and I'm peeking my head in. I'm looking inside at this English class, and I couldn't see an open seat. I couldn't see an open seat in the whole room, and so I says to myself, I'm not going to go in there and ask for a seat. This must be a sign I'm not supposed to be here. So I left and I went back to the office. And my brother goes, what are you doing here? I says, it's not for me, bro. And he goes, gosh, dang it. And he started like getting real mad. And he's like, you're so ungrateful. And people would just kill to have an education and you don't appreciate it. And your education's paid for. And I was like, I just wasn't feeling it. I'm sorry, but I wasn't feeling it. And I've always prided myself on doing things a little different. Well, come to find out, of the people that graduate from college, even though they incur all those student loans, over 50% of them a year later, they're unemployed. And I don't know the percentages, but there is a very high percentage of people that go and they spend all that money and they get those majors and they get that, they've got that degree and they don't end up working in that profession, in that chosen field that they'd hoped to work in. And so college is for some people, and I'm all for it. You know, if that's the route you want to go, and if you pride yourself on getting a degree, good for you. But I also want people to know that there's alternative options out there. There's alternative options out there for people like me that, you know, that think differently, that want to think outside the box. Now think about my relationship. Rachel, let's just talk together. Think about our relationship with Isagenix, okay? This is pretty cool. Here we have this billion-dollar company, Rachel. It's a billion-dollar brand with a 150,000 square foot facility in Gilbert, Arizona. People see it and they're like, whoa! They're like, Sean, I had no idea that Isagenix was this big, okay? And we've got all like 50, 60 life-changing products. The best thing we've got going for us is by far and away the results. Rachel was just sharing with me some of the results that, close the door. Hey, oh, the dog opened the door, hold on. Rachel was sharing with me, okay, the results that she's seeing even in her own team. And I was like, whoa, it's like mind-boggling, the results that people are seeing with this product. Okay, and we have solutions that transform lives, and we have solutions that address the whole spectrum of health. No matter what your goals are, we have solutions for it, and they work. And you can't deny it. I would say that of all these companies, I don't care if you got your makeup, you guys, you've seen the makeup companies, you're getting proposition for the clothing companies, you're getting proposition for all these different companies. Let me tell you what we've got going for us. Results. When you see our before and after pictures and you read our stories, you just go, geez, like this is really working, and I could bless people's lives with these technologies. I could help people. And then the finances, the money end of it just happens naturally. When you're blessing lives and you're helping people with this product, I promise you the money will hunt you down just like it did me. Focus on the mission, and the commission will always be there. But Rachel, then you've got this team, okay? You've got people like myself, people like my parents, my mom and dad, you know, multi-million-dollar earners. You've got people like Pete and Victoria. These are very prominent, successful, you know, creditable professionals. People like Paula, you know, and I could keep going on and on and on. And here's the cool thing about this business model. Rachel, you get to be mentored by all these professionals and these entrepreneurs, these business people for free. But it's not just us. It's like Susan Sly, Jay Bennett, you know, Jeffrey Combs. It's all available to you, okay? And what happens is you grow as a person. In fact, when I used to talk to people on the phone, I used to say, and I used to repeat myself over and over and over again. And I would always say this too. I'd always say, hi, my name is Sean, and you know, I didn't have a lot of training. When I started this business, I was just normal, just no college education, no formal background in business. I was just a normal guy. But what's so cool about this business model, so cool, Corey. Like, Corey, you will not recognize yourself in 10 years. You stay in this line of work, you stay in this business model, you will evolve. And Greg, you'll say, Corey, like, imagine back then, you didn't have these skills. You didn't have these abilities. You've totally evolved. And that's what my wife and I look at each other, Crystal and I look at each other, and we're like, I'm like, Crystal, you are so amazing. In the last 10 years, I wouldn't even recognize you. If I ran into you 10 years later, you have evolved. You're amazing. You're an amazing presenter. You're an amazing connector. You're an amazing trainer and mentor. You're inspirational. And that's what's going to happen to each of you. Each of you that partners with us, one of the coolest things is not just the money, and it's not just the results around the product. It's what you become along this journey. Because this journey is all about growth, personal growth. And when you get in a job, when you get in a 9-to-5 job, I'm sorry, but there is not a lot of personal growth in that line of work. You do the same stuff over and over and over again, and it's tedious and it's monotonous, and you'll get sick of it. And pretty soon, it's like I told you what I tell you, Rachel. We bury people in their 70s and 80s and 90s, but they actually died in their 30s.
Yeah.
When they stopped dreaming, when they stopped believing what was possible.
Hey, Sean, I just want to butt in and say that there's less than a minute left on this Zoom.
Yeah, close it up.
You want me to close it up or start a new one?
Close it up. You bet.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sean, for sharing that.
My
that
pleasure.
was amazing. Like, I just feel so much more passionate and excited about this journey, and all of you guys that are on the phone. It's amazing that, just like he was saying, in a couple of years, you don't even know what's going to happen if you stick to it. This business model is absolutely brilliant. You know, just being a business student, I can see it. It's insane. So that's why I love it so much, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Sean. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. It's great to see you. You're looking great.
Thank you. You guys too. Love you guys.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks,
It
Sean.
was so good. So good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I look forward to working with you all.
Yeah, can't wait.
Thank you. Watch out for the college students.
Oh man.
Go Rachel. Go Rachel.
Yeah.
You know what? They've got everything it takes, and then you think of technology, social media, this type of technology. You guys can do it way faster than we ever did.
Love you, Sean. Looks like you're healing well. Keep it up.
Yeah, thanks.
See you soon, guys.
All right,
All right,
guys.
good
I'm going
night,
to sign
everyone.
off. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank
Bye.
you, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Just want to make sure it recorded. I'm guessing it did.
Should I leave? What do I do?
Nikki.
Is that Nikki?
It's